The champagne glass shattered against the wall, inches from her head. She froze in the doorway, her heart hammering against her ribs. The expensive bed sheets were tangled, empty bottles littered the floor, and the air was thick with tension and expensive perfume. He turned to face her slowly, deliberately. The family's golden son. The untouchable heir. And right now, his eyes were filled with something dark and dangerous. "Close the door," he commanded, his words slurred but his intent crystal clear. "You're not leaving until I say so." This was the moment everything changed. The moment a simple housekeeping task turned into a nightmare she never saw coming. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now because the story I'm about to tell you is absolutely insane. We're talking about power, betrayal, and one woman who stood up when everyone expected her to bow down. Before we jump in, let me set the scene. She'd been working at this mansion for almost a year. One of the wealthiest families in Seoul. Old money. Real power. The kind of people who could make you disappear with a phone call. And she? She was nobody. Just another employee trying to survive in a house where the help was meant to be invisible. But on this particular night, being invisible wasn't going to save her. The head housekeeper's instructions had been clear: fresh linens in the young master's suite before dawn. No exceptions. No delays. So there she stood, carrying perfectly pressed sheets, staring at a scene she was never supposed to witness. He wasn't alone. A woman lay sprawled across the bed, barely covered. And he stood there, shirtless, reeking of alcohol and entitlement. I'll come back later," she stammered, already backing toward the door. "No." His voice cut through the room like a knife. "You'll stay." In fact. He moved closer, and she could see the cruelty dancing in his eyes. "I have a better idea." What he said next made her blood turn to ice. He wanted her to undress. To join them. Said it like he was ordering room service. Casual. Expected. Like her body was just another thing he owned in this house. Her hands trembled, but not from fear. From pure, burning rage. "Excuse me?" Her voice came out stronger than she felt. He smiled. Actually smiled. "You heard me. Or are you too stupid to understand Korean?" The insult hung in the air, ugly and deliberate. She'd spent 11 months swallowing her pride in this place. 11 months of, "Yes sir," and "Right away ma'am," and pretending she didn't notice the way the matriarch looked at her with barely concealed disgust. But this? This was a line she wouldn't cross. "I'm here to change your sheets," she said carefully, fighting to keep her voice steady. "That's all I'm doing." His expression darkened. In 2 steps, he closed the distance between them. Before she could react, his hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. Hard. Hard enough that she felt her bones grinding together. "Let go," she demanded, yanking backward. His grip only tightened. "You work for my family. That means you work for me. And when I give you an order." The slap happened before her brain could catch up to her hand. The sound cracked through the room like thunder. Everything stopped. The woman on the bed gasped. The heir's head had snapped to the side from the impact. Slowly, he turned back to face her, a red mark already blooming across his perfect skin. When he spoke, his voice was deadly quiet. "You just signed your death warrant." She didn't wait to hear more. She ripped her arm free and ran. The mansion's hallways blurred past her. Marble floors. Priceless paintings. Gold fixtures. All of it mocking her as she fled through a palace that was never meant for people like her. Behind her, she could hear him. Shouting. Threatening. Getting closer. She rounded a corner and slammed into something solid. Strong hands caught her shoulders, steadying her before she could fall. She looked up, expecting another threat, another danger. Instead, she found herself staring at a face that was hauntingly familiar. Same sharp features as the heir. Same dark, intense eyes. But this man's expression held none of that casual cruelty. The second son. The family secret. Born the same year as the heir, but to a different mother. The one who lived in the mansion but was never invited to family portraits. Please, she gasped. He's coming, he. I know. Get behind me. The heir appeared at the end of the hallway, chest heaving, eyes wild with rage. When he saw his half-brother standing between them, something dangerous flickered across his face. Move, the heir snarled. Now. No. That single word carried the weight of 30 years of rivalry, resentment, and unspoken war. The two brothers faced each other. Same blood. Same house. Completely different worlds. This is none of your business, the heir hissed. It became my business the moment you put your hands on her. She's a servant. She struck me. Do you know what father will? Do you know what father will do when he finds out what you demanded of her? The heir's face went pale, then red. His fists clenched. For a moment, she thought he might actually attack his own brother. Instead, he took a step back. But the smile that spread across his face was somehow worse than any punch. Interesting, he said softly, his eyes moving between them. Very interesting. Defending the help. Father's going to love hearing about this. He turned and walked away, but his parting words floated back like poison. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. She sagged against the wall, her legs barely holding her up. The second son turned to her, and for the first time, she saw genuine concern in his eyes. Are you hurt? She looked down at her wrist. Dark bruises were already forming where the heir had grabbed her. Her uniform was torn. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. I'm fine, she lied. He didn't argue. Instead, he pulled out his phone and made a quiet call. Station guards outside the staff quarters. East Wing. Now. When he hung up, he looked at her again. Really looked at her. It won't happen again, he said. It sounded like a promise. Thank you, she whispered. He nodded once, then started to walk away. That's when she saw it. Her eyes tracked upward to the corner of the hallway where a small red light blinked steadily. A security camera. Positioned perfectly to have captured everything. Her stomach dropped. In this house, every camera fed directly to one person, the matriarch. The heir's mother. The woman who'd spent 3 decades grooming her son to inherit the empire. The woman who looked at the second son like he was a mistake that should have been erased. That camera had just recorded him choosing a maid over his own brother. She realized, with growing horror, that the real nightmare hadn't started yet. If you're hooked, smash that like button and drop a comment telling me what you think happens next. Should she trust the second son? Is the heir planning revenge? Let me know below, and don't forget to subscribe because Act 2 is going to blow your mind. Sleep never came that night. She sat in her tiny room, chair wedged under the door handle, listening to the guards pace outside. Their presence should have felt protective. Instead, it felt like a countdown. Because in this house, protection meant attention. And attention was the most dangerous thing you could have. Dawn broke cold and gray. The knock came before the sun fully rose. The patriarch wants to see you. Now. Her blood turned to ice. The patriarch. The man who'd built an empire on ruthlessness and strategy. The king of this gilded cage. She'd only seen him from a distancia, a silver-haired figure who commanded rooms just by entering them. And now he wanted to see her. The walk to his study felt like walking to her own execution. Every servant she passed stopped and stared. Whispered. By now, everyone knew what happened. In a mansion where gossip was currency, she'd become the most expensive story in circulation. The study doors were massive, carved wood that probably cost more than her entire year's salary. She knocked, and a voice like steel responded. Enter. Inside, the air was thick with leather, old books, and power. The patriarch sat behind a desk the size of her room. To his right stood the matriarch, her expression sharp enough to draw blood. To his left, the second son, his face unreadable. But it was the figure in the shadows that made her stomach drop. The heir. Leaning against the wall with a bandage on his cheek where she'd struck him. His smile was pure venom. "Close the door," the patriarch commanded. She obeyed. "Do you know why you're here?" Her throat was desert dry. "No, sir. My son claims you assaulted him. Struck him without provocation in his own quarters." The patriarch's voice gave nothing away. "What do you say to that?" The room held its breath. This was it. The moment that would define everything. She could lie, minimize, beg for mercy. Or she could tell the truth and face whatever came next. "He grabbed me first," she said quietly. "After making an inappropriate demand. I defended myself." The matriarch made a sound like a wounded animal. "She admits it." "Father, you see I said he grabbed me first," she repeated, louder this time. Meeting the patriarch's eyes even though every instinct screamed to look away. "I was there to do my job. He had other ideas." The heir pushed off the wall. "She's lying. She came to my room dressed inappropriately, practically threw herself a." "Enough." The patriarch's single word cut through the room like a blade. He stood, moving around the desk until he was directly in front of her. Up close, she could see every line carved by decades of power plays and hard decisions. "You have courage," he said finally. "Foolish courage, perhaps. But courage nonetheless." He turned to the matriarch. "No one will touch her again. Is that understood?" The words should have been a relief. Instead, they landed like a death sentence. Because the look the matriarch gave her in that moment, a pure, concentrated hatred, told her this was far from over. "Of course, father," the matriarch said, her voice dripping false sweetness. "Whatever you think is best." As she was dismissed and walked back through the hallways, she didn't see the matriarch pull the heir aside. Didn't hear the whispered conversation that followed. Didn't know that she'd just become a pawn in a war that had been brewing for 30 years. But she felt it. That electric charge in the air before a storm breaks. For 3 days, nothing happened. She went about her duties. Cleaned rooms. Folded laundry. Pretended everything was normal. The second son kept his distance, though she'd catch him watching sometimes. Making sure she was safe. The guards remained posted near the staff quarters. And she waited. Because peace in this house never lasted. The bomb dropped on the 4th day. A mandatory household meeting. Every servant, every guard, every member of the family gathered in the main hall like subjects summoned before their rulers. The patriarch looked tired. The matriarch looked triumphant. The heir looked bored. And the second son looked worried. His eyes found hers across the crowded room with an expression that clearly said, "Be careful." The matriarch stood, and the room fell silent. "Thank you all for coming. I've called you here because we have a very serious matter to address." She paused for effect. "Valuable items have gone missing from this household." A ripple of shock moved through the servants. After a thorough investigation, the matriarch continued, her eyes sweeping the room before landing directly on her. "We believe we know who's responsible." "No. No, no, no. A gold and emerald necklace was stolen from my personal collection 3 days ago. A family heirloom. Irreplaceable." The matriarch's voice was perfectly measured. "And this morning, during a routine inspection, we found it hidden in the quarters of one of our employees." Every head in the room turned. Every eye landed on her. "That's impossible," she said, her voice rising. "I would never. Security footage shows you entering my chambers 2 days ago when I was away," the matriarch said smoothly. "You were seen near my jewelry box. And when we searched your room this afternoon." She held up a necklace. Gold and emeralds catching the light like green fire. The room erupted in whispers. I was cleaning. Her voice cut through the noise. You sent me there to clean. I never touched that necklace. Someone planted it in my room. She's lying, someone shouted from the crowd. Typical, another voice added. I knew she was trouble from day one. The mob mentality was taking hold, and she could feel control slipping through her fingers. The patriarch stood. For the first time, he looked at her with something resembling disappointment. Do you have any proof of your innocence? Do you have proof of her guilt? The second son's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. He stepped forward, past the boundary that separated family from servants. Beyond a necklace that could have been placed in her room by anyone? Where's your evidence? The matriarch's smile was cold. Are you suggesting someone in this household would frame a servant? Who would do such a thing? Someone with motive, the second son said carefully. Someone who wanted her gone. The implication hung in the air, heavy and dangerous. The matriarch's expression hardened. You go too far. Do I? He turned to face his father. Or am I the only one asking the right questions? Where's the actual proof? The footage could show her cleaning, just like she said. Where's the evidence she took anything? The heir finally spoke, his voice lazy and confident. Multiple staff members saw her acting suspicious near mother's quarters. She's been resentful since arriving. And let's not forget she assaulted me just days ago. Clearly, she has anger issues and no respect for this family. He was rewriting history in real time, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. I propose we terminate her employment immediately, the heir continued. And consider pressing charges for theft. I propose we investigate further, the second son countered, his voice steel. And find out who actually planted that necklace. Because it wasn't her. The patriarch looked between his two sons. The legitimate heir and the illegitimate son. The chosen and the tolerated. And she realized, with stunning clarity, that this wasn't about her at all. She was just the battlefield where a much older war was being fought. Father. The second son's voice was quiet but carried to every corner of the room. If she's guilty, then so am I. Silence crashed through the hall like a wave. What are you saying? The patriarch's voice was dangerously soft. I'm saying that if you punish her without real proof, you punish me as well. Because I believe she's innocent. And I stake my reputation on that belief. The matriarch looked like she might explode. You would risk everything for a common thief? I would risk everything for justice, he replied evenly. Something this family used to value. The insult landed like a physical blow. The patriarch's face hardened. For a terrifying moment, she thought he might strike his own son. Instead, he spoke. You have 1 week to prove your innocence. If you cannot. He looked directly at her. You will be terminated. And charges will be filed. This meeting is dismissed. As the crowd dispersed, the second son caught her eye. The smallest nod. A promise. Or maybe a warning. Either way, the clock was ticking. And somewhere in this mansion of secrets and lies, the truth was hiding. She just had to find it before they destroyed her completely. If you're loving this story, hit that like button. Comment below, do you think she can prove her innocence? Is the second son playing his own game? Let me know your theories. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her mind raced through possibilities, dead ends, and the crushing weight of knowing that in 7 days, her life as she knew it would be over. The knock came at 2 a.m. Soft. Deliberate. She opened the door a crack to find the second son standing there, a laptop tucked under his arm. I found something, he said quietly. But you need to see it now. They moved to an empty storage room, far from prying eyes and security cameras. He opened the laptop and pulled up footage from 3 days ago. Watch, he said. The video showed the matriarch's chambers. Late afternoon. A figure in staff uniform entered, moved quickly to the dresser, opened the jewelry box, and removed the necklace. Then they walked purposefully toward the staff quarters. "Can you see who it is?" she whispered. He zoomed in, enhanced the image. The figure turned slightly, just enough. Her stomach dropped. That's the head of security. The matriarch's most loyal servant. The man who'd been with the family for 20 years. Who would do anything his mistress asked. No questions. It proves someone planted the evidence, the second son said. But it doesn't prove who ordered it. He'll take the fall before he implicates her. We need more. Then what do we do? His jaw tightened. We give them what they want. We make them think they've won. And we wait for them to get sloppy. She understood immediately what he was suggesting. You want to use me as bait. I want to give you a choice, he corrected. Walk away now. I have an apartment across town, safe, untraceable. You can disappear, start over. Or... He paused. Or we end this. We get the evidence we need to expose them completely. But that means putting yourself in danger. Real danger. Every logical part of her brain screamed to run. To take the escape he was offering and never look back. But something else burned in her chest. Rage. Pride. A refusal to let them win. What do I need to do? His expression shifted to surprise, maybe respect. Are you sure? These people don't play fair. If something goes wrong, I'm sure, she interrupted. They've already tried to destroy my reputation. My livelihood. What's left to lose? He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Okay. Here's the plan. Over the next 3 days, they set the trap. The second son made it clear through careful conversations that she was alone, vulnerable, and that he was backing off to protect his own position. He planted doubts, created distance, made it look like he'd abandoned her. Meanwhile, he positioned cameras, stationed loyal guards in hidden locations, and prepared to record everything. On the third night, the summons came. The head of security appeared at her door, his expression professionally blank. The matriarch requests your presence. She wishes to speak with you privately. To apologize for the misunderstanding. Every alarm in her body screamed danger. But she smiled and nodded. Of course. Lead the way. He took her through the mansion, but not to the matriarch's quarters. Instead, they descended into the basement of the same place the heir had tried to take her before. This isn't the way to the matriarch's room, she said, keeping her voice steady. She's waiting for you downstairs. She preferred privacy. They reached a heavy metal door. He unlocked it, and it swung open to reveal a room that looked like something from a nightmare. Concrete floor. Drain in the center. Chains on the walls. Stains that might not be stains at all. And standing in the center, the matriarch and the heir. The door slammed shut behind her. Locked. Hello, dear, the matriarch said, her voice dripping false sweetness. Thank you for coming. I thought it was time we had a conversation. Woman to woman. She backed against the wall. What do you want? What do I want? The matriarch laughed, and the sound was like breaking glass. I want my son to inherit what's rightfully his. I want the bastard gone. And I want you to disappear so completely that no one will ever find you. The heir stepped forward, and she could smell expensive cologne mixed with malice. Here's how this works. You're going to write a confession. Admit to the theft. Admit to trying to seduce both of us to climb the social ladder. Then you're going to take these. He held up a bottle of pills. Sleeping pills. Perfectly legal. You'll take them all, and when they find you tomorrow in your room, everyone will understand. The shame became too much. You couldn't live with what you'd done. Her mouth went dry. And if I refuse? His hand shot out, grabbing her throat. He slammed her against the wall, and her vision blurred at the edges. Then we do this the messy way, he hissed. And trust me, I'll enjoy that so much more. She clawed at his hand, gasping for air. Black spots danced across her vision. This was it. They were really going to kill her. The matriarch moved closer, her perfume cloying. It's really quite simple, dear. You're nothing. A foreigner. A servant. Who's going to miss you? Who's going to look? I will. The voice cut through the room like a blade. The heir's hand loosened just enough for her to gulp in air. She turned her head and saw Hima, the second son, standing in the doorway that shouldn't have been unlocked. Behind him, a dozen guards with weapons drawn. And in his hand, a phone. Recording everything. The matriarch's face went white. How did you I've known about this room since I was 12, he said, his voice cold as ice. I've known about everything you've done in this house for years. I was just waiting for you to go too far. To show father exactly who you really are. He held up the phone. On the screen, the video was playing. The matriarch admitting everything. The heir threatening murder. All of it captured in perfect clarity. This recording is currently uploading to 3 separate secure servers, he continued. Copies are being sent to father, our lawyers, and several police contacts I trust. Even if you kill me right now, it won't matter. The truth is already out. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then the matriarch lunged for the phone. The second son sidestepped easily. 2 guards caught her, restraining her as she screamed. You bastard. You planned this. You used that girl as bait. I gave her a choice, he said quietly. And she was brave enough to take it. Unlike your son, who spent his entire life hiding behind you. The heir snarled and rushed forward. The fight was short and brutal. 2 punches. The heir went down, blood streaming from his nose. The second son walked past his fallen half-brother like he was nothing. He reached her, his hands gentle as they checked her throat, her head. Are you okay? She nodded, not trusting her voice. Come on. Let's get you out of here. As they walked out of that basement room, past the matriarch screaming threats and the heir cursing from the floor, she felt something break loose in her chest. Relief. Vindication. Justice. But it wasn't over yet. The patriarch was waiting in his study. The second son handed him the phone without a word. The old man watched the recording, his face growing darker with each passing second. When it finished, silence filled the room like water. My wife, the patriarch said finally, his voice hollow. My son. They tried to murder an innocent woman in my own home. Yes, the second son said simply. The patriarch looked at him. Really looked at him. And for the first time, she saw something like pride in the old man's eyes. You knew they would do this. I suspected. She confirmed it by choosing to stay. You risked her life. I gave her a choice. She chose to fight. The patriarch's gaze shifted to her. Is this true? Yes, sir, she said quietly. I chose to stay. To prove what they were capable of. The old man nodded slowly. Then he picked up his phone and made a call. Have the matriarch confined to her quarters. The heir as well. They are not to leave the property until further notice. He paused. And call my lawyers. All of them. We have a lot of work to do. He hung up and looked at the second son. You understand what this means? The scandal. The fallout. The family name will be destroyed. The family was already destroyed, the second son replied. I'm just making it official. The patriarch almost smiled. Almost. You'll make a good patriarch someday. Ruthless when necessary. Compassionate when possible. That's the balance I never found. He stood, moving to the window. Dawn was breaking over Seoul, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. You're both dismissed. Get some rest. Tomorrow, the real war begins. As they walked out, she finally let herself believe it might be over. That maybe, just maybe, she'd survived. Then she heard it. Footsteps. Running. Coming from the direction of the matriarch's quarters. Shouting. So much shouting. They ran toward the noise. A crowd had gathered outside the matriarch's door. Someone was screaming inside. High-pitched. Desperate. Wrong. The door burst open. A guard stumbled out, his face white as death. Get the patriarch. Now. He couldn't finish. They pushed through the crowd. Inside the matriarch's room, chaos. Furniture overturned. A shattered mirror. And blood. So much blood. The matriarch stood in the center, a letter opener clutched in her hand, her elegant dress stained dark red. And at her feet, collapsed against the wall, was the patriarch. Multiple stab wounds. His breathing shallow and labored. The matriarch laughed. The sound of something breaking completely. You did this, she said to no one and everyone. You forced my hand. I won't let the bastard have everything. I won't. She raised the letter opener again. This time pointing it at the second son. Guards surged forward, but desperation made her fast. The blade came down. And she moved. Threw herself between them. Felt the impact, the burn, the sharp shocking pain as the letter opener sank into her shoulder. She heard him scream her name. Felt arms catch her as she fell. Gunshots. The matriarch was down. Everything was chaos and noise and pain. But through it all, she felt his hands on her face, his voice in her ear. Stay with me. Do you hear me? Stay with me. She tried to tell him she was okay. That it was just her shoulder. That she'd survived worse. But the words wouldn't come. The darkness was pulling at her, heavy and insistent. The last thing she saw was his face. The last thing she heard was his voice, broken and desperate, don't leave me. Please. Not you too. Then nothing. So, does she survive? Does the patriarch live long enough to change his will? And where is the heir during all this chaos? Is he planning something even more dangerous? Drop a comment below if you want part 2 because trust me, this story is far from over. What do you think happens next? Will the second son finally get what he deserves? Or will the family destroy itself completely? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the conclusion. Because what comes next? You're not going to believe it. I'll see you in the next one.